Covington City Council meeting for Tuesday, October 14th. In compliance with state law, city council special and regular meetings are held in a hybrid format with in-person, telephonic, and virtual options for public viewing and participation. With that, we'll call this meeting to order. And Krista, if you'd like to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Soltis.
I'm here.
Councilmember Porter.
Here.
Councilmember Hertzog.
Here.
Councilmember Hartenhausen.
Present.
Councilmember Simomo.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Here.
And Mayor Wagner.
Here.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you, Krista. If everybody could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next is the approval of the agenda. Regan, do we have any changes tonight?
No changes, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. I look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda has been approved. First up, public communication is we have our pre-session legislative presentation. Emily, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. As a reminder, my name is Emily Shea, state lobbyist at Gordon Thomas Honeywell Relations with Brianna Murray's team. Here we go. So diving into the substance tonight for the presentation this evening, we'll cover 5 different areas. I'll begin first with a brief overview of the 2026 session. I will then provide emerging themes for this session and giving a little bit of context into what goes into a funding request. Following that, we'll explore best practices for developing a legislative agenda and then conclude with next steps. There we go, it's working now. The 2026 session is the second year of the biennium. It's a 60-day session, and it's often referred to as a non-budget year since the legislature makes adjustments in the 2 years budget process. These adjustments are called the supplemental budget, and again, it's that second year of the biennium. Although there's 9 legislative races on the November ballot, only 1 is competitive. That's in the 26. No matter the outcome of the race in the 26, Democrats hold a several severe advantage in both the Senate and House, and they will retain the majority in both chambers during the 2026 session. Following the 2026 session will be another campaign season where the entire House and half the Senate will be running for re-election. Traditionally, we don't see controversial policies come out during a campaign year and even number years because many legislators are mindful about their upcoming elections. The composition of the legislature remains similar to that of 2025, and all bills from the previous year will continue into this session. Upcoming elections are expected to influence legislative agendas and discussions throughout. Both the representatives and the senators from the city of Covington's district are expected to return to Olympia. Legislators are set to convene during the week of December 9th for committee assembly days, where they will begin to work on sessions that are planned for the upcoming sessions with work issues in regards to the policy areas. So just to provide kind of a more preview of what the themes we are seeing during this current supplemental budget year, the governor has stated it may be difficult to offset all federal reductions while maintaining a balanced budget. Several Democratic legislators have indicated an interest in revisiting a wealth tax as a possible source of revenue to replace federal funding reductions, but the governor has expressed his ongoing concerns regarding this wealth tax. There have also been reports of a special session of the legislature that could be held before January to address possible changes to the federal funding for Medicaid, food assistance, or other programs. Due in light to the time of year, a special session is probably not going to be considered. Tax policy is also expected to be another important area of discussion during the session. As of July 27th, 330 new statutes took effect in Washington state. Many have direct impacts for employers, developers, and business operators. A key focus will be considering the revisions to the already enacted tax bills from last session. This process will involve multiple trailer bills, which are supplementary measures to the main budget bill to address particular issues or necessary adjustments. The Department of Revenue has indicated plans to propose several such bills in relation to the current tax proposals. I'm going to skip over this guy for time. Regarding funding requests, to provide additional context and clarity, I want to outline the state's budget process as it directs impacts on our advocacy strategy. As the city's lobbyist, one of my core objectives is to ensure that our efforts consistently deliver strong returns for the city of Covington. While some of this may be review, establishing a common understanding is essential before we focus on the city's funding priorities moving forward. The state operates with 3 distinct budgets: the operating, the capital, and the transportation. As previously mentioned, each of these budgets is adopted as a biennial 2-year cycle. The current budget period spans from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2027. Notably, 2026 is designated as a supplemental or non-budget year when adjustments rather than new budgets are typically made. The state's budget process is already in motion. It began with state agencies preparing and submitting their budget requests to the Office of Financial Management on September 15th. From now until December, the governor's office will review these requests and develop proposed budgets for the operating, capital, and transportation categories. The governor's proposal serves as a foundation for legislative negotiations, not the final version. During the legislative session, each chamber of the legislature develops its own version of these proposed budgets, resulting in 3 drafts for each budget area. Through negotiations, a final version of each budget is reached by the legislature and then sent to the governor, who can veto or partially veto the legislation. Any changes made through the supplemental budget will take effect on July 1st, 2026. There's kind of a map showing that. So in regards to local government, there are multiple opportunities to request funding from various state budgets. The operating budget, the first one you see there, is often the most challenging to secure funding from, largely due to anticipated budget challenges and shortfalls with strict requirements that are awarded. Funds must be spent within a specific fiscal year. Additionally, funding from the operating budget must be managed by a designated state agency, which typically charges a modest administration fee. In contrast, the capital budget is a more traditional and acceptable source of funding for local governments. One notable program, the Local and Community Project, serves as the state's version of earmarks, providing capital funding for infrastructure projects such as parks and community buildings. Investments in the city of Covington area have consistently delivered positive returns in this area, even as operating and transportation budgets face ongoing challenges. In the most recent supplemental year cycle, so 2024, the average award size was $211,000. However, significantly larger grants ranging into several millions of dollars are awarded to projects of regional or statewide importance, and especially those that advance by coalitions. For the 2026 supplemental budget, there is still $349 million in bond capacity. The transportation budget, the last one you see there, supports both operational expenses and capital projects related to the state's transportation system. The legislature has been prioritizing the completion of projects that are already underway due to limited transportation resources. Any request for funds from the state's transportation budget must demonstrate a clear connection to the state's transportation system. So as we deliberate on tonight's city's priorities that are in front of you for this coming year, I'd like to offer some guidance on some best practices that have shown to enhance likelihood of successful outcomes. The first here is being focused, a focused approach. Lawmakers can tend to have multitude of priorities each session, with over 2,000 bills introduced annually. The city's agenda is most effective when it remains concise and focused on 4 to 5 key items, enabling policymakers to devote their attention and efforts towards achieving tangible results. The second one being city-centric. The city's influence is greatest in areas where it possesses specialized expertise or direct responsibility. For instance, just as it would be appropriate for a school district to determine city and construction, the city should refrain from school district determining city roads. For political context, the 2026 legislative session will serve as a supplemental year, primarily addressing these adjustments or existing policies rather than introduction of new initiatives. It is advisable to pursue modest requests at this time and reserve a more comprehensive proposal for 2027 following the biennial's enhancements. As your lobbyist, though, I do recognize the determinations regarding policy and budget requests ultimately reside with legislators and extend beyond the influence of any single individual or community. However, I am committed to aligning your advocacy efforts with available revenue streams, ensuring the city's agenda is supported by appropriate funding, and to see the return on investment for the city of Covington. So with that, here goes the fun stuff. Over recent months, I have worked with Regan to prepare a set of priorities and develop a draft proposal for your consideration and approval tonight. Since we started working with Covington, we advised that the organization develop 2 documents to support legislative engagement. The first is a legislative agenda, which lists these priorities. Covington wants to advance and play a proactive role in getting across the finish line, which you'll see on the slide. This policy manual, which we'll get to later, issues that have direct impact on City of Covington or where City of Covington plans to weigh in with support or concerns when topics arise. And with that, we'll get into some of our requests for the night. So first, focusing on capital, the city requests $723,000 from the 2026 capital budget to support the linear replacement and family changing room renovation project at the Aquatic Center. A little bit of background that I didn't know. Built in 1977, the facility is showing its age, and key upgrades are needed to maintain safe, accessible operations and support vital community programs. The total project for this is estimated at $1.5 million. The city has already secured half of this funding through a grant from the King County. Legislative investment is sought to cover the remaining costs and ensure the Aquatic Center continues for the community effectively. And as a reminder, in 2025, the city did secure $500,000 for Jenkins Creek Trail and nearly $2 million from the Washington Wildlife and Recreational Program grant. So that item can be removed from this year's list. Moving on to the transportation side, this one will be a refresher for you. Continuing from last year's agenda, the city's second legislative priority remains focused on State Route 18. Due to a $1 billion shortfall in the transportation budget this past year, progress was delayed, pushing some funding into future years. Ultimately, the final budget allocated $15 million for 25-27, which is slightly above the minimum needed for the project moving forward. The city's priority is to safeguard these funds and keep the project as close to projected schedule as possible to protect the safety of Covington community. Additionally, recognizing the transportation funding will remain tight in the near future, the city continues to advocate for increased maintenance and preservation funding. Last year, maintenance and preservation became a bipartisan priority for the Transportation Committee. The transportation budget now allocates $1.6 billion for highway maintenance and road preservation and includes a 6-cent increase to the existing 49.6-cent gas tax rate. Despite these efforts, state level investments remain insufficient in the needs of cities statewide. Covington strongly supports the creation of reliable, ongoing source of transportation funding, specifically dedicated to maintaining and preserving local infrastructure. Then our last slide for priorities, the final 2 identified from the city of Covington for 2026 are public safety and public defense as the new one. Regarding public safety, the city remains committed to public safety, building on last year's passage of the 0.1 public safety sales tax increase. Covington is committed to fulfilling the requirements set by the Criminal Justice Training Commission. However, compliance has presented challenges due to its status as a contract city. The city respectfully requests further guidance regarding the implementation and funding process for local governments. A new priority this year is public defense. Along with AWC, the city urges the legislature to allocate the necessary funds and resources to effectively implement the state's new reduced Indigenous defense caseload standards. And then this small list, if you can read it with 20/20 vision, is our policy manual. A policy manual is an important resource for outlining Covington's position on key issues. These positions help guide which bills are flagged for review and discussion and determine which proposals the city should support or oppose. The list on the screen or in your packet are those key issues that are priorities in the policy manual. If there are particular issues that you feel strongly about, whether in support or opposition, your feedback is invaluable. Our goal is to engage thoughtfully and strategically, informed by your guidance on the council. New policy considerations this year include housing reporting and growth management requirements. Covington supports legislative efforts that promote partnership with the Department of Commerce, aiming to provide clear guidance and streamlining reporting systems. And then really quickly, regarding AWC's priorities, I thought it might be helpful to provide what's currently under consideration as it's being reviewed. And this is the recommendations that have brought to the AWC board later last month for priorities that have been identified as of now for the association's focus. The first is proposing to secure funding for maintenance and preservation, as we discussed, through a new revenue package, responding to the reduced gas tax revenues. Recommendations include seeking greater flexibility for existing revenue streams and local control over fund allocation. Those proposed measures also include supporting ongoing direct distributions to cities and towns, evaluating alternative revenue mechanisms such as a highway usage fee, a retail delivery fee, expanded transportation benefit district authority, and considering options like a sidewalk utility. Second, AWC is requesting state funding for the Indigenous defense and advocating for additional support for those standards. Third, AWC highlights the goal of increasing housing supply through tools such as local option real estate excise tax, short-term rental tax, and expanded use for lodging taxes for housing. And then finally, a reoccurring theme is seeking to maintain current state shared revenues for cities and towns. And finally, before I turn it over to you for discussion, here's where we are at in the process and what comes next. So I'm looking for your input and guidance on the development of the city's legislative agenda. It's important that these priorities reflect the council's priorities as well. Once the legislative agenda has been adopted, we will conduct our pre-session presentation briefings with city legislators in November and December. And the 2026 legislative session begins on January 12th. So with that, Mayor, I will hand it back to you to finish the discussion and feedback, and I'm here to answer any questions. And if you need me or Brianna Murray for anything related to the state level, there's our information as well.
Great. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah.
And before we proceed, Regan, I know that we have new business item number 1 to discuss this, or are we discussing it now, or?
The intent was to discuss a new business item
Okay,
number
okay.
1, so but there won't need to be much of a review at that point, but we can discuss it then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any questions for Emily?
Sorry, I was confused. Are we talking about it later? Because I want to make
Yeah,
sure we have,
there's an agenda.
Yeah, I
there's an
know
agenda
that,
item, yeah.
but we have Emily here who's an expert. So what, some of the questions may be aimed at,
Yeah, I don't mind, yeah,
Okay.
whatever you want.
yeah. I just have one.
Well, Regan's the one that's got it set up. Go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah, we can do, I can do
No,
it.
go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering.
I can wait around here too, if it's up to you
Yeah,
guys.
and Regan, you might be able to answer. I just was wondering for like our policy questions, how and when do we determine when we're gonna weigh in on some of those? What's the trigger for, a bill that might enhance revenue flexibility? Who makes that determination? I just was curious.
I would just jump in on that. So that's something that we work with our lobbyists with
Right.
throughout the entire legislative session. And when something's brought up, that's when we jump in on it, where our priorities are different, where we're actually aggressively pursuing
Right.
those.
Yeah.
So these are more of a reactionary.
Yeah, and that's part of the report. So within the reports that we send out, there's a list kind of our top priorities. And then below that is kind of more of the policy manual of the bills that are affecting that.
Okay.
And generally there's a communication of, okay, these are coming up to the policy manual. Should be covered.
Anything else?
Later.
Anybody else have any other questions for Emily? Emily, thank you very
Thank you,
much
guys.
for being here. Appreciate all you hard work down there.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, next, if council could please join me in front of the dais.
Get it?
Thank you. You're faster than I am.
Not much, moving forward.
With my phone, something fall.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I have fallen lately. Run over. All right, we have 2 proclamations that we are presenting tonight. The first one is for America's Safe Schools. So, Chief, You'd like to join us? Thank you for coming up. Safety in our schools is extremely important. So this first proclamation is for America's Safe Schools Week. So whereas excellence in education is dependent on safe, secure, and peaceful school settings, yet the safety and well-being of many students, teachers, and school staff are unnecessarily jeopardized by crime and violence, such as substance abuse, gangs, bullying, poor discipline, vandalism, and absenteeism in our schools. And whereas it is the responsibility of all citizens and leaders, especially those in education, law enforcement, government, and business, to enhance the learning experiences of our young people by helping to ensure fair and effective discipline, provide mental health support, promote good citizenship, and make schools safe and secure. And whereas schools make substantial contributions to the future of America and to the development of our nation's young people as knowledgeable, responsible, and productive citizens. And the observance of America's Safe Schools Week will focus public attention on school safety and identity, develop and promote innovative answers to these critical issues. Not that we shouldn't be doing this every day at schools, whether it's in or out of session. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Covington, do hereby proclaim October 19th through the 25th of 2025 as America's Safe Schools Week in the City of Covington, and ask all citizens to join us in this special observance and recognition of the value of safe schools in our community as secure and peaceful places for learning, teaching, and working free of drugs, alcohol, weapons, and fear. And Chief, I'd like to present this to you to pass on to the schools, but I know that you and your team have a very key part in keeping our schools safe.
We do, thank you. We've actually had a good start to this year with a lot less incidents at the school, especially the high school. So we hope to continue that momentum into the rest of the school year, and we're pleased to see the improvement, and we'll continue to work to keep the schools safe.
Great, thank you.
Okay, this is, 1, 2,
Great, thank you, Chief. Next, we have the honor to have Hindu American Awareness and Appreciation Month. And if you gentlemen would like to join us, or all of you or one of you, whatever you would like. We can make room. Right here in the center. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight. We greatly appreciate it. And like I said, this is an honor to be able to present this proclamation to you. So whereas there are an estimated 2.5 million Hindu Americans living throughout the United States, representing a variety of ethnic backgrounds, including individuals of Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Malaysian, Indonesian, Afghan, Nepali, Bhutanese, Sri Lanka, Fijian, Caribbean, and European descent. And whereas our nation has benefited from Hindu Americans through philosophy, medicine, classical Indian art, dance, music, meditation, yoga, literature, and community service. And whereas our Covington Hindu community is a vibrant combination of individuals, families, and organizations contributing economically and socially throughout our city, and working together to preserve and nurture Hindu culture. And whereas despite their positive contributions, Hindu Americans face stereotypes and misconceptions about their heritage and have been the targets of bullying, discrimination, hate speech, and bias-motivated crimes. And whereas Hindu American Awareness and Appreciation Month is celebrated every October and seeks to bring local awareness, recognition and acknowledgement of the significant contributions made by the Hindu Americans across the United States. Now therefore, we, the City Council, the City of Covington, do hereby proclaim October 2025 to be Hindu American Awareness Appreciation Month in the City of Covington, and increase understanding of the Hindu American community, and to celebrate the cultural vibrance and diversity our Hindu residents bring to our city. I'd like to present this proclamation to you, and thank you for being here. Is there anything that you would like to say?
Yeah, so apart from this, we are also doing a Seva Diwali. That is something which we collect food and distribute, and we give to the, last year we gave to the Maple Valley Food Bank, and all over US, last year we collected 10,000 10,000 lbs of food, and we donated to the needy people. And as per the Seva Diwali, it is like we want to bring a joy and happiness and make sure that whole community gets food and nobody stay hungry.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And then you ran away.
Yeah.
I'd like to give you this proclamation.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, scoot in a little bit. Okay. 1, 2, 3. One more.
Thank you again. Thanks for being here tonight. Yep. Yep. That's it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I was running right.
I know, right?
All right, thank you. It's always a pleasure and honor to give out proclamations at our council meetings. Next up is our first of 2 public comment periods. Speakers will state their name, organization, and whether they are a Covington resident. Comments are directed to City Council, not the audience or staff. Comments are to be related to city business. Comments are not intended for conversation or debate and are limited to 4 minutes per speaker. For attendees participating by Zoom, please click the raise hand button. For attendees participating by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. Once the city grants permission to speak, press unmute in Zoom or dial *6 to unmute by phone. Please note, campaigning for any ballot measure or candidate at City Hall or during city council meetings, including public comment period, is prohibited by state law RCW 42.178.555. With that, first up is Margaret Hardo. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for giving me this opportunity. My name is Margaret Hardo. I'm here tonight as a King County Fire District number 37 Commissioner and Chairman of that board. Also a member of the governance board for the Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority. And I want to share with you the fact that King County Fire District, which Covington, the city of Covington, is a part of, as well as the surrounding unincorporated area, is looking for a commissioner. We do have a vacancy on our board. We must fill it by November 15th, or it goes to the county council, which means it's out of our hands. So I'm looking to you as council members of the city of Covington to perhaps recommend to someone that they submit an application. Maybe deep down, that person always wanted to be a firefighter, but they just never quite made it. Couldn't make that decision Well, this is their opportunity to be part of an absolutely fantastic fire service, Puget Sound Fire. The governance board, of course, sets the budget, works with the administration of Puget Sound Fire when it comes to making decisions about how to care for you in this community, provide fire service, provide life safety, provide property safety. You as a city are represented in an advisory capacity by your mayor pro tem, Sean Smith. And I know that Sean keeps you up to date on what's happening with Puget Sound Fire. King County Fire District as an entity within the RFA has three commissioners serve on that governance board, along with 3 city council members from Kent and from Tukwila. Advisory members include the city of Covington, the city of Maple Valley, Fire District 43, and the city of SeaTac. So it's a great group of 13 governance board members as a whole. We meet monthly. And I will tell you that when I was recruited a long time ago, I said, I know all about the fire service. You call 911 and the fire engine comes, and that's all there is to it. Let me tell you, if you haven't seen this 2024 report, I'm going to leave one with Jeff and one with Krista. Please look through this. Sean can get you your own copy. Puget Sound Fire is national accredited. That says a whole lot. And inside these pages, you will find what a comprehensive fire service program it is. So thank you for this opportunity to share with you. And now I'm going to do a turnaround. I'm going to cover this up, take this off. And I'm going to say, whoop, I'll pick it up later. But 2 footnotes, 3 footnotes. One, I want to say thank you, even if it's belated, to your police chief. Thank you very much, Adam, for coming to our National Night Out. Sometimes the seniors over at Covington Place are a forgotten neighborhood, except a Puget Sound Fire.
Mhm.
They can get there blindfolded, I can tell you. But he came and spent a great deal of time answering questions. And we really do appreciate that. Secondly, I personally want to say thank you for the budget item I saw, which was an amount of $5,000 being allocated for a Pride event. As a Pride mom, I'm very grateful and I'm very hopeful that I will be able to participate in a Covington Pride event next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thanks for helping the old lady.
Anytime.
Is there anybody else in the audience that'd like to address council this evening? Is there anybody online wishing to address council this evening? Please raise your hand. Seeing nobody approach the podium or raise their hand, we will close this public comment period and we will have a second opportunity towards the end of our meeting. Next is approval of consent agenda consisting of items C1 through C12. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda has been approved. Next, we have a public hearing tonight. Tonight, we have a public hearing to receive testimony from the public regarding a 6-month extension of a moratorium on the battery energy storage system facility. This being the date set and proper notices having been posted and published in accordance with state and local law, we will hereby declare this public hearing open. And Selena?
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight you have a public hearing to hear an extension of the moratorium on the battery energy storage facilities, BESS. As outlined in the agenda item, we originally adopted this moratorium in May of 2024 as a result of wanting to understand what the regulations were on battery energy storage facilities and how those are addressed in our code. And we extended that moratorium again in April of 2025, and we're back here again in October. That should actually say October of 2025 for another 6-month moratorium. Remembering your first moratorium can be 1 year and each additional extension is 6 months. So this extension would put us in May of 2026. This item has been on the Planning Commission's work plan since we put it there last year. And we've had priorities as we talked tonight, critical areas, comp plan, housing. Our hope is that the Planning Commission will start talking about this in Q1, Q2, early Q1 of 2026. We're going to be doing some introductions. I will also state that there is a work plan that's required for the moratorium. Staff has been really working under number 1, gathering existing regulations. I just went to a training last week around BESS and learning more about the regulations and how they're getting more integrated into the law. So that'll be interesting. We'll bring that information back to the Planning Commission. And then obviously we're watching the state legislation really clearly to see if there's any additional regulations that come out of that. So our hope would be that we would have this addressed before the next moratorium, but there is a chance that we may need an additional extension. But ideally, we would be close to bringing it back to the council, at least by Q2, Q3, 2026.
Great. Thank you, Selena. The ground rules for public comment during the public hearing are as follows. When your name is called, step up to the microphone, give your name, and state whether you are a resident of the city of Covington. Please limit your comments to 4 minutes. City clerk will set a timer that will go off when your time is up. When the timer goes off, please wind up promptly. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to address council about the battery energy storage system? Is there anybody online wishing to address council about the moratorium? Seeing nobody raise their hand, I will declare this public hearing closed. And does council have any questions that they'd like to ask Selena on this? Does council wish to take action on the moratorium?
I move to,
I can read it if you'd like to.
yeah, I don't know, I'm just missing.
Okay.
I make a motion to.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed ordinance that renews ordinance number 03-2025 on the acceptance, processing, and or approval of applications for building and land development permits and related land use decisions for battery energy storage system facilities to be located within the city of Covington for a period of 6 months. Beth, would you like to speak to your motion?
The staff needs time to do what they need to do, and I think we've been all down this road. We all are aware of what it entails, and we want to make sure we do it properly.
Great. Thank you, Beth. And who was our second? I'm sorry, Debbie.
Thank you. I agree, and I appreciate that the Planning Commission has that on their work plan. We appreciate the time that they spend on that.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed ordinance that renews ordinance number 03-2025 on the acceptance, processing, and or approval of applications for building and land development permits and related land use decisions for battery energy storage system facilities to be located within the city of Covington for a period of 6 months. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. That brings us into new business. Item number 1, discuss the proposed 2026 legislative priorities and policies. Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, as you all saw in your packet, and also Emily presented that to you, you've got the priorities and the policy document before you. I would like to add one thing, that what we're really seeking tonight is approval, especially on the priorities for those items, but some of the language that's on the document now will probably change once we start formatting that document and to, you know, a little brevity in some of those recommendations. But as we progress down the legislative session and as items get some feet, we typically put together a 1-pager on those specific items, and we'll include more. I just wanted to give you an FYI that some of the language here will probably not be in the final draft we bring.
Thank you, Regan. Questions? Sean, did you have a question?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regan, appreciate it. One of the things that I realize is going to be tough this session is the budget. You know, we're hearing at the state level, everything just, you got to be really careful and look at all your spending. And I notice a lot of our priorities obviously deal with additional funding and spending. So I'm wondering, on this sheet, these are our top priorities. Are we prioritizing these top priorities? How do we determine which ones,
Yeah.
if we're really going to ask, these are the ones we really want? Is there any
It's a
thought
great
to that?
question. And as we've spoken with some legislators over the last month or two, putting this together, the kind of thought is keep any budget requests between 500 and 750,000 or lower, right? So we've done that. But as far as prioritizing what our priorities are,
Yeah.
we've not done that. That's really kind of a fluid thing as we go through the legislative session, depending on support that's garnered throughout the session, where the legislators are. So no, we haven't prioritized those.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just from what I see, anecdotally, it's going to be really, really tough. So the more coalitions we can build, I think the State Route 18, revitalizing COTC, just working with AWC, the more voices you can bring, I think the better we'll be.
Absolutely.
But it's also going to be, there's going to be a lot of no, I think, this session. So I did have one other question on the last priority, talked about public safety and said to ensure smooth and effective implementation. We would appreciate any guidance that would help us navigate the process. City of Covington respectfully request making funding more adaptable and easier for local governments to access. Have we done anything on what that would look like? What are we envisioning?
Yeah, we have reviewed that. We do plan to talk more with council about this at the summit. The state has given local jurisdictions tools to fund different things. With this tool that they gave us to fund public safety, it has a ton of strings attached and is very, very difficult. I'd say most of the jurisdictions in the state have said it's not even worth it. King County just applied for it and they were rejected because they still couldn't meet all of the requirements. They'll renew it, but it's a very, very difficult threshold to get. So part of that ask is, can we make the threshold simpler for us so that we can secure that funding? Because there's a lot of things in that bill that a lot of cities just cannot do. So we're the size city we're right on the threshold, but it becomes difficult.
So we're a contract city and Maple Valley is a contract city and there's others. Are there economies of scale that we could get from some of that if we say maybe do a joint?
It's a jurisdictionally
For-
for this request?
Yeah,
Yes,
if we say through
absolutely.
Maple Valley,
Yes,
we're
yes.
coming in together.
Yeah, we're doing that. Absolutely. Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
For sure. I did want to bring up one other thing that I started just this last week, so it's not included on this. You're all familiar with House Bill 1590, where we 60% of what we collect is for construction. The other 40% we can use for what we do with our community cares program. The intent of that bill is not being met. The intent was that cities would use the revenues, or whatever jurisdiction adopts. You recall cities had a very small window to adopt it before the county. We were one of the few cities that got it. But the intent from the legislature was that cities or jurisdictions that had this would bond against the revenues to build affordable housing. But it doesn't bring in enough to do that. So no jurisdiction in the state has done that. So as we've been looking at this a little bit, our thought is there an opportunity to amend the language in that might change the split so that maybe it's a 50-50 split instead of a 60-40. And the real work we're doing from 1590, we could increase with those funds. So there's a little bit of pushback as we floated that idea last week with some legislators, but I think there's still a undercurrent from several jurisdictions that want to pursue that. So that might be, like I said, with these priorities going up, this might be something we actually add through the legislative sessions. So.
Joe.
What pushbacks are you getting on that? I'm just curious because it sounds like something we could when during council action days, we could be down there, poking the
Yeah.
bear saying, hey, stop that. This is a great idea. We're doing great things with this. We could do great with more.
So by that time, we'll have our messaging more figured out, but the real issue right now is trying to articulate this in a nice way. Simply that legislators have not been too concerned with what's happening on the ground. And so really educating them as to why the intent that this statute was adopted is not being met, and that the services we're providing could be enhanced with a different split.
Debbie.
Thank you. My question is kind of along the same line that Sean was asking, although related to the public defense legislative priority. So do we know from AWC, or do you have a sense if other cities are bubbling this up to being one of their priorities? Because we all signed on to that letter, right? So
Yeah.
many of our cities did. So I'm just curious if you think that 10, 20 voices are stronger than one, if we think there will be a collective voice on that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one I would not have even included on here if there wasn't a strong coalition behind it. So I've spoken to many cities. I've spoken to AWC. SCA is working on this. I think that was the letter you're referring to. Yeah, this is a major issue to drop from a public defender allowed to prosecute or defend 400 cases a year now to 120. It is going to create massive issues for local jurisdictions. So there's a ton of support to do something with this. The legislature can't change the rules because those were adopted by the state Supreme Court. So what we're seeking is help in implementing the new rules.
Okay, thank you. And the ramp up time on that is still 10 years?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Beth?
Just to tag on to that though, our legislators have quite a bit of political pull with the state Supreme Court. Like they could push if they wanted to change it.
I wouldn't imagine that would be a thing.
Well,
They would
okay,
do, yeah.
I hear where you're going with that,
Yeah.
but if they hear enough collectively saying, and this is the impact it's having on our communities.
Yeah, that's
And
the
then
difficult
what it's
part,
costing
right?
us, what the cost is
Because of
now.
the separation of government,
Right.
right? Separation of branches. There's really nothing, and I think, I don't know, maybe Mark could jump in. It'd probably be inappropriate for the legislature to push the Supreme Court.
Not
Right,
officially.
but there's
Yeah,
different
yeah.
avenues to do
Mhm.
that, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Those avenues are these coalitions, several of them have sent letters to the Supreme Court. We had a real blitz before they adopted the rule, hoping that we could put a little common sense into that ruling, but it didn't happen.
Anybody else? Jennifer?
Just a comment. Thank you for including the behavioral health treatment in there. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right. I know this is discussion at this time. Is there anything else you'd like from
Just
us?
if there's any changes to those items, let us know. Otherwise, we'll get this together and bring it back for final approval.
I know that we took off the Highway 516 transportation because there's nothing needed for next year, but hopefully we can bring it back for 27.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Next is new business item number 2, the 2026 operating and capital budget presentation. Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a fun one. I'm grateful each year for the opportunity to help in putting this budget together. And I just want to thank our team, our finance team led by Casey, our directors and others who help contribute to the success of our budgets. We've been a fiscally strong city because we take budgeting serious and do it right for decades. And quite honestly, this has been probably one of the more difficult budgets to put together in a balanced way that we've had. A couple of years ago, I shared some forecasting from the King County Economic Director, how a fiscal cliff will be coming in 26 and 27. And without some of the difficult decisions council made in the last couple of years to increase some revenue options, we would be falling off that cliff right now. So this has been difficult. There's been a lot of justifiable needs a lot of great requests that were submitted that I just was not able to fund, and we'll be able to talk more about those at the budget workshop. But the real issue is that the costs that we do not control are totally out of control. And absorbing those has proven to be very difficult. So working to balance a budget with those ever increasing expenditures for which we don't control means that we've really had to tighten our belts and say no to some what I think are very justifiable requests. So we've taken a cautious approach, as you know, to our revenue and expenditure forecasts. Some of the costs that we don't control, like insurance, utilities, public safety contracts, like police, jail, public defense, are growing at a pace that's simply out of our hands, and we cannot absorb them. To give you an example of that, since we adopted the business and occupation tax to help pay for public safety in 2024, this was last year, our police contract has increased by $1.56 million. Just in that time, that's the increase we've seen in our public safety contract. And that doesn't take into account jail and public defender and everything else. That almost takes up everything that we're collecting in the B&O, just the increase in that last year. So that just to paint a picture of the difficulty balancing the budget. So in response to those things, I restricted new funding to very minor ongoing expenses, and then focused on one-time investments that really target our priorities. And like I mentioned, we'll have an opportunity to really get into this Saturday and additionally after that. So my 2026 budget strategies going into it were to maintain current service levels, invest in programs that boost efficiency and reduce staff time, invest in safeguarding data and ensuring business continuity, and provide funding for mandated items. But after going through it, I'd say my strategy changed to just do whatever the heck it takes to ensure we're fiscally strong now and tomorrow. So that's what I had to do after several drafts of going through the budget and assessing requests. And I don't mean to sound dire, but we are in a difficult situation. But with proper budgeting methodologies that we do, we will weather this fine. So I'll quickly go through each fund now, and then happy to answer any questions that you might have. So in the general fund for 2026, we're forecasting a 3.1% decrease in revenues, and base budget expenditures are $1.2 million higher than 2025. This is mostly due to an increase in the police contract, which was a $700,000 increase. Court is up 6.6%, prosecution up 32%, public defense up 74%, and our public defense with the new indigent defense standards are projected in the next several years to go up 1,000%. So something to be aware of. And our jail costs are up 9.2%. So for 2026, I'm recommending 14 decision cards totaling $523,000. $447,000 is in one-time costs, and then those smaller ongoing costs. In the street fund, the TBD sales tax is estimated to generate $2.2 million, and the remaining major revenues, franchise fees, fuel taxes, are forecasted to remain flat. The base budget expenditures before decision cards are $2.3 million, which is a decrease of $127,000 from current year. So for 2026, I'm recommending one decision card with a total cost of $17,485. Development services and swim, I'm not recommending any new decision cards for next year. Part of that we'll discuss a little later in this swim study that's shared though. In the equipment replacement fund, I'm recommending one decision card totaling $113,000, and $111,000 of that is one-time costs. In our capital investment project fund, I'm recommending one decision card totaling $148,000 in one-time costs. So again, the primary goal of our budget is to really secure Covington's financial future, and we take that extremely serious. And as expenditures continue to rise, we have proactively identified efficiencies and cost-saving measures, as well as identifying some revenue strategies that we can use to make sure that we're smart in collecting those. This approach is really done to lay the foundation and the groundwork for us to be resilient as a community and continue to stay financially solvent. So that's the end of my budget message. Again, we're going to have a lot of time over the next couple of months to discuss these things. But I just want to thank council. You're always extremely thoughtful in your deliberations on these budget items, and that shows. We've got Margaret here, who was here for a long time and reacted in the same way to these budget issues, and they come and they ebb and flow, and we'll be fine. But happy to take any questions if you have any now, or we can wait till next Saturday.
Okay, does council have any questions now? I know we have Saturday, the 25th set up for lengthy discussions, meaty discussions. Sean?
I guess the only thing I'd ask right now, I know we're gonna get into some of the details on these, but it seems like it's, and I appreciate you saying, you know, these things come and go and they happen, although it does feel a little different this year. Are we doing, how should we communicate this to the public? You know, I think there may not be in our residents a full appreciation of kind of what we are doing and how we work to maintain our services and how we did a lot last year to minimize cuts. But, you know, you can only cut so much before you're cutting bone. So how are we doing any additional outreach, I guess, or communication on just what the budget's looking like?
And no, we've not done any at this point, but that's something we can definitely do once council's made some final budget decisions and we know what we're moving forward with. I think it's a good idea to share that. Yeah.
Anybody else? Thank you, Sean.
Mhm.
All right, thank you, Regan.
Yeah, you bet.
Next is new business item number 3, presentation and discussion of surface water management, the rate study. Don and Ben, welcome.
He gets to hide back there. I gotta stand here. I'm gonna go off the side a little bit.
That's right. Sorry, I'm trying to get this all to work here. Okay. Back here. Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Ben and I will be presenting the 2025 rate study. We want to also thank Casey for all her help with putting this together. This is related to items to our 2026 budget, and Casey may jump in a couple of items as we go through the presentation. I do want to start off with an apology for the errors in the first paragraph of the staff report for this agenda item. Basically, the information that was from the 2014 rate study it was in there instead of the 2017 rate study as stated. The correct information is as follows. The last rate study was from 2017. That study presented options between 5% and 10%. Council approved a 9% annual rate increase for 2018 to 2023. Then the rates only increased by the CPI for 2024, which was 4.6%, and 2025, that was 3.6%. And I just wanted to also say, if there's questions as we go along, please, I'll try to pause or feel free to jump in if there's questions as we go along. So what have we done since 2017? Ben?
We've done a lot. Thanks for listening to us tonight, and I hope you all enjoyed Stormwater Awareness Week last week. It was a great week. So here's a list of some of the kind of high level stuff that we have accomplished since our last rate study. We've done a lot more pond rehabs. So there's budget after that last rate study. We've been able to actually go in and muck out ponds. We call it mucking, where we can reestablish them back to full capacity and function. So we've been very successful at least doing one pond a year. We also have been able to do ditching and shouldering on some of our main roads where we can go back and reestablish old ditch lines. That's been a huge thing. And a lot of capital projects, a lot of retrofits. We've been going through our system and removing untreated outfalls, providing treatment for those, or removing the actual pipe that goes to the stream and infiltrating upland. So that's kind of been the gist of what we've been able to accomplish over the last few years with the swim funds, actual on the ground improvements to our stormwater system and maintenance. So that's been huge. Future state. So, well, this is, excuse me, not future, back to our past. Since 2017, we've added 23 residential plats. So all those residential plats come with new stormwater facilities, more infrastructure, more catch basins, more pipes that we have to maintain. There's been, Maple Hills, Cedar Creek Park, Jenkins Landing, Little Sioux Creek Park, a lot of big neighborhoods. There's a lot of infrastructure associated with those that we now take care of. So 23 residential plats is a lot of infrastructure. There's been 10 major commercial projects, including the Station by Vintage, the apartment complex, the Vineyard. There have been 2 storage units that have come in. Those commercial sites come with frontage improvements that we have to take care of that are our responsibility. Plus, that also adds into our business source control program and our private drainage facility inspection. So that's more workload on our staff to be able to manage those facilities with the property owners. In addition to that, we have done some more capital projects as well. We've got, the 204th project, the Covington connector, the new bridge over Jenkins Creek. All that new infrastructure comes with more infrastructure to take care of. So that gets added into our inventory and we've got to maintain it.
And I will say on that too, keep in mind when we have street CIP, on those, if grant funding doesn't cover all the costs for those elements, like the stormwater elements of things, then the swim fund has to come in and cover that shortfall, or if there's overruns or things along those lines. So those pieces of that pay into those street CIP projects as well at times if the grant funds don't cover it all.
Okay. And then NPDES regulations from this last round of the NPDES permit. There's been a lot more emphasis on education and outreach. We have to, I don't know, you guys might have seen our commercial of Karma storing his chemicals in his garage. So that is permit requirement. We have to do active behavior change. We're working on a new one right now. So those every few years, we got to roll out another educational campaign. The stormwater management action plan, those have been a new thing from this round of the permit, where we have to pick a sub basin of concern and develop a separate program that mirrors the NPDES permit specifically for that basin and run that program at the same time as the rest of the NPDES permit. So those are additional costs for retrofits, more maintenance, more education. And we have one currently, and by the end of this permit term, they're going to have us add another sub basin, and then I'm probably moving through the future. They're going to just keep adding these sub basin plants that are in addition to what we're doing. Also, as everything else goes, everything's getting more expensive. The Vector contracts are getting more expensive. The maintenance contracts are getting more expensive. The pond muck contracts are getting more expensive. So just to do the work that we've been doing for years is more costly at this point. So that definitely, and that doesn't slow down. We still need to do that stuff. We can't not do the maintenance. That is a permit requirement that we do the maintenance and we do these projects and we do the retrofits. It's just getting more expensive to do that.
And I would just say on that too, that a lot of the projects that we showed before, we've kind of done the low hanging fruit. We're now kind of getting into the more intense ones, and takes a little bit more effort to do those.
Bigger and more complicated to, dealing with more utilities, dealing with less room to put infrastructure, the potential property acquisition. So it just gets expensive from here on out. And then also just the cost of our internal stuff is increasing as well. Salaries and benefits have gone up 7 to 8%, just across the board. Our contracts for factoring, sweeping, those types of just basic maintenance contracts have gone up at least 5% every year. So that will continue to rise too as time goes on.
So I'll jump in here really. And so these pieces now we're kind of going into In your packet, we had the entire kind of model or study in there. So we're just kind of pulling out individual pieces that we'll go through, and then we'll pull it all back together at the end. So go ahead, Ben.
Yep, so the kind of the first part in our spreadsheet here talks about kind of some of that system cleaning. It is an NPDES requirement to clean every catch basin every 2 years. So we've split our city in half. So we clean half 1 year and half next year. If you click the map, you can kind of see so we do we have our cities broken into the 4 maintenance zones. So we do zone 1 and 2, all the catch basin maintenance there. And then the next year we do 3 and 4. And then we also, that includes cleaning storm filters. There's some gray infrastructure we have. We have quite a few filter vaults in town and stormwater vaults. As more development comes on, we continue to get more and more of those filter vaults. There's a cost associated with that. Every 2 years, we got to clean the filters out, put new filters in. And then all the rest of the tanks and the settling stuff that's associated with those. And then the the Stormwater Management Action Plan, like I said, that's a separate program that adds about another 100,000 to our Vector contract just in increased maintenance. Those catch basins get cleaned every year there's a higher maintenance frequency for that basin. And like I said, we're going to continue to add more of these sub basins over time as a requirement of the permit. So those will, instead of doing every 2 years, the basins will get cleaned every year in those basins. So that's an additional cost. The total growth from, let's see, what's that? So our Vector contract, yeah. So right now, this year, our Vector contract's 224,000. By 2023, we're projecting it will be about 373,000. So that's a pretty significant increase over the next couple of years, just for the Vector service, just for cleaning the catch basins. Annual stormwater maintenance is kind of the middle section. Years past when we've done these, we've broken it out into pond rehabilitation, like neighborhood drainage improvements and ditching, and we've kind of had separate line items. This go around, we're putting all that maintenance into kind of one spot. We've done all the low hanging fruit. So the stuff that's left is a lot of bigger projects, more extensive projects. So it made more sense just to put all maintenance into one portion of this rate study. That includes the shouldering. This year we were able to do the shouldering on 240th and 180th. Or excuse me, that's still slated for next year. 240th and 180th, those are those long corridors on 180th all the way up to CCP, all the way down to basically 256. That's a long corridor that's got a lot of shoulder and has some remnants of ditches. So that'll be a project for next year. And then all of 240th through the city limits has never been touched. So that'll be a big project to get all that done. They have some other projects on here. The CCP ponds, those are that's kind of a challenge. The chemicals that we use on the sports field, the fertilizers and stuff to keep that field alive through all of its use, drains straight to the storm ponds, which means the storm ponds grow a lot of cattails and vegetation, which is what you don't want in storm ponds. So those ponds need to be maintained at a higher frequency. So those are ready to be mucked out again. And yeah, so all those things are adding up in this, and we try to schedule things out to balance it over costs and priorities, and that's what you'll see in this that section. And then the bottom little tab is that stormwater management action plan. So ecology is requiring us to have that listed out separate, the things that we're going to do in that separate basin. And as you can see, the timing of those line up with the timing of other things because they have to be parallel. It's not one or the other. We got to do both. So there's 2 projects in there that are a pretty major flooding fix in the Covington Park neighborhood. And then also retrofitting a pond next to the Jenkins Creek Trail property. So those will be our 2 projects for that area for the upcoming years. And then in conclusion from all that, between the reoccurring maintenance, the area specific repairs, the permit driven capital projects, all that stuff is steadily increasing in costs and has been for a while, and it will continue to increase. But these are kind of the foundation of what our proposed rate adjustments are. And that's to ensure that we are keeping up on what we're supposed to be doing for the regulations, but we're also keeping up on what our system needs. So we're not backsliding, we're not losing ground. We've been gaining ground for years and we want to keep gaining ground on our aging system. We don't want to lose, we don't want to backslide.
And I will just say too, on those SMAP projects, believe those are eligible for grant support, but we're not guaranteed that, but we will be applying for those as well. But yeah, those are part of that as well, that in some of these cases we'll talk about too, that we've offset with grant revenues. And when those happen, it doesn't directly affect the rates, but we'll get into that as we go through that. Are there any questions so far?
Where can we find money?
No.
Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Got the next slide. So then the next part of our rate study is the capital improvement side for stormwater. These projects are planned out through 2031, and it covers, like, so we've already done a lot of the low hanging fruit. So a lot of the projects coming up now are more complicated and more costly or bigger. One of the projects is slated to happen soon. We're almost done with the design on is the Crystal View outfall retrofits. It's going to be one of the last two outfalls that the old neighborhood has no treatment or flow control. It's direct discharge to, there's a pipe that points at Little Sioux Creek. So we will be adding water quality to that, but it's an older neighborhood. All the utilities are in the way. So it gets expensive when we're trying to split this water quality treatment up throughout this neighborhood and accommodate all the utilities. And, most of the neighborhood is old. So the curbs don't flow anymore. The road is falling apart. So we're having to do a lot of ancillary repairs to make the new system work with replacing that stuff. So it makes that project get expensive pretty quick. And that's mainly due to the size and the constraints. So that's kind of our next big project, but that's kind of what we're looking at moving into the future of these projects is they're all going to be complicated or they're going to require like property acquisition to be able to do them.
Do you want to mention about the limited treatment options and the grants for that?
Yeah, and there are quite a few grants available for retrofits, but through Department of Ecology, but the parameters to be able to apply for those require a lot more low impact development, where we get neighborhoods like this Crystal View Estates where the roadway is small, the lots are small, there's not a lot of space to be able to do low impact development. So we're doing a gray infrastructure option, filter vaults, stuff that's in the roadway underground. We're out of, we can't compete with ecology grants because we're not LID enough. So a lot of the granting stuff for stormwater retrofits have been so narrowly focused in just funding low impact development that regular system repairs are getting hard to fund through grants. But we are always trying, we just don't compete very well with a lot of our projects because we're not LID enough.
So there's another item on there for 2026. We have a set aside for this new maintenance shop. Be the swim element for that. That covers the swim portion of the new maintenance shop. We don't know exactly yet what that cost will be. I will say that we did put out the rebid on Monday for that project. So that is re-advertised now for the maintenance shop. So we're supposed to get bids back in early November for that rebid. So again, fingers crossed that things go well on that.
So can I go back to Crystal View Park?
Yeah.
Or Crystal View outfall. So one time we were looking at wanting to rebuild Crystal View Park. Is that something that if we incorporated the two since the outfall, and maybe I'm off a little bit.
It's further up in the neighborhood.
Okay.
So the Crystal View neighborhood is quite large. The park is in one spot at the lower spot. The outfall is actually further up into the neighborhood.
I didn't know if we could incorporate and get a grant.
And there are two outfalls. There is one by the park, but it's closer to our bridge project. We're hoping to kind of incorporate that. And when we replace that culvert in the next few years, if we can get that culvert project off the ground, that'll take care of that outfall. So this one's internal to the neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Jennifer.
Can I ask for clarification on two of these big ticket items, the Wingfield property purchase?
Yes.
and the Decant facility
So
or
the
Decant?
Wingfield property purchase actually, the hope is that that would be grant funded, and that is shown in here offset with grant revenue. That's, there's several pieces of property just south of the Wingfield open space. That there is a narrow private driveway culvert that actually blocks the stream, and it's a fish barrier, and it backs water up into that whole Little Sioux Creek system into the Wingfield property. The thought was, with support from the flood control district and from Ryan 9, would be to buy 2 of those parcels that are fed by that driveway, remove the houses in the driveway and restore the stream through there. But that would be grant funded, but we still.
Those are private residences
Yeah.
now?
Yes, they're private residents now. So,
And the intent, those are one of the ones that if it's being offset in the model for that grant fund. So that hit for the Wingfield purchase and the decant facility, both are shown as having revenue and grant. So it's neutral in terms of the rates. So in the model, it's not
Oh,
impacting.
gotcha.
it's only gonna happen when we
impacting
get the
the
grant.
cost. So
Understood.
But we still have.
Well, and we got some RIA funds for the Wingfield already,
Yep.
so it's strong possibility. And then what's the,
So the decant
Decant?
facility, we've started the process with the Department of Ecology for buying our own sweeper instead of having to do the sweeper contract. Part of buying a sweeper with ecology grant funds is we have to do an enhanced maintenance plan, which we're in the process of completing with ecology grant funds. It would also be building a decant facility. That's the spot where the sweeper dumps. That would also be a place for our Vector truck to dump, which should bring some of those costs of those contracts down. Right now, the Vectors and the sweepers, King County won't take that material anymore anywhere in King County. So those purveyors have to drive to Snohomish or Pierce to be able to dump the stuff that they're.
and we
removing
get
from our
charged for
street.
that, yeah.
So
Okay.
this would give them an opportunity for a place to dump. We would have our own sweeper and we would utilize that. But again, all that only happens if it's grant funded.
Okay.
So we're started that process. We're working on it with the ecology.
Gotcha.
We're doing the first
Thank
steps right
you.
now, but that's what that is in there as a placeholder.
then the lowest portion, that's in there. That's to support this growing workload we're talking about. We're also proposing strategic staff additions and equipment investments. In 2026, we have a halftime swim project manager proposed. That is as it shows on here, half being funded by pavement preservation to be the other half. Those will be an item that we can talk about also. And I don't know, Casey or Regan, if you guys want to jump in, but those would be items we could talk about at the budget.
Yeah, that was a decision card we kind of deferred to be able to talk about based on how council goes with this swim decision tonight. That then we can talk about at the budget workshop, that maybe there's an add that back into the budget, so.
Also there, as Ben was talking about, there's a lot of education and business engagement. So there's a half FTE also in that portion as well, which again there's another element of that that's tied, that was indicated on the budget as well, that was deferred. And then we have with that in 2029, we've added another maintenance worker. And this is with that additional expected infrastructure and maintenance requirements. So combined, these capital projects and staffing investments reflect the current needs for infrastructure resilience and regulatory compliance. Okay. So this is kind of everything back now. And this slide shows our 6-year budget forecast for the Surface Water Management Fund with a 6.5% annual rate increase. Later, we'll show a graph with the different rates and how that's shown or can be done. I do apologize. I know the table's busy, so I'll try to lay out a little bit of the structure. That middle green section is what we detailed on the previous slides that we just went through. I just rolled those up to just show the totals and not have the individual projects otherwise that table is like really long. So all those pieces that we just talked about are all in that middle green section. Oh my gosh, I don't like that. Sorry. Got to be careful where I scroll from. The darker green row towards the top shows the revenue with the 6.5% increase beginning in 2026. So we start in 2026, that very top, with 4.8 million in cash reserves. But despite implementing a 6.5% annual rate increase starting in 2026, based on this example, our expenses continue to outpace revenues beginning immediately. You can see the operating deficit line in orange down towards the bottom. Even with rate increases, we're still projecting deficits every single year, ranging from 1.2 million in 2026 to 90,000 by 2031. As those deficits accumulate, our ending cash balance steadily declines, going from 4.8 million in 2026 down to just 1.6 million by 2031. So those would be that green ending fund balance, cash balance lines down at the bottom. It does show, though, which is good, that we're maintaining our 20% of our annual expenses in reserve. We do meet that threshold, but by 2030, our cushion above that minimum drops to only 238,000, which gives us, little room for any emergencies or unexpected capital needs. So this is kind of also was the graph in your packet that kind of showed the different ending cash balances with different rate increases. The red line that's kind of horizontal is the 20% fund balance target. You can see the green line, or the lowest line on there, is with a no rate increase. Then the next one up is a 3%. Then it goes 5%, 6%, and 6.5%. You can see the slopes of those lines is basically show the steepness of that is basically the deficit spending. And as some of that rates come back, you can see those lines starting to level off towards the last couple of years, especially on the higher rates. So I do have one more slide that I'll talk about what other cities are doing, and we can change these because we have options to have higher, lower, stepping, different rates, all those types of things. I can bring up a sheet and we can dynamically see that change if we want to. But I will say, I just wanted to share this too, kind of what other cities are doing or did in the area. Auburn had a 6.7% increase in 2024 and 2025. Maple Valley had a 17% increase annually from 2020 to 2022, and a 3% annually from 2023 to 25. Kent, you see there, is 9.5 in 23, and then basically CPI like us in 24 and 25. Tukwila, 5%, 23 and 24. Renton, 4% in 23 and 24, and 3.5 in 25. Des Moines, 6%, 24 and 25. Sammamish, 6.25. Annually, they just completed a rate study, and they have 6.25% annually from 23 to 28. Then you see Snoqualmie also has a 5% annually from 25 to 30. And then Gig Harbor had a 14% increase in 2025. So those are what I could find in the area that were recent. Obviously, there's a lot of different factors that come into if you've got sewer and different things too as part of your maintenance responsibilities that can get shared in some of that. So it does kind of depend a little bit from city to city, but I wanted to show some of what those rate increases were just for swim rates. So ton of information. I do apologize for that. but happy to answer any questions, happy to go through anything, make any adjustments, any thoughts that council has.
Okay, Debbie?
Thank you. Can you take us back 2 more slides, please, with the graph chart? Thank you. So what would be the target? I mean, we certainly don't want to be in the green line. If we're looking at maybe a 6% increase, we'd be, I mean, where do we want to end up on that 2031 line, or do we need to worry about that far out?
So
we do.
So the red line that goes across there is kind of the 20% fund balance, which is our target of how much we need to have for our reserve. And Casey, if you want to speak more to that, you can. So that's really ultimately we need to be above that line in the end. Sorry.
So staff recommendation is 6.5% according to the blue flip sheet.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes into the fact that there's a little bit of cushion above. Once we hit 2031, you're still above that red line a little bit. And some of that was to give a little bit of cushion, which I know that there's 20% is still above that operating piece, but these aren't really accounting for, you know, emergencies or cost overruns or whatever with everything, which are difficult to predict. But that was what our recommendation was. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to say in regards to that as far as.
I would just mention that, just to remind you guys why we use cash balances for the swim fund is because the fund balance includes all of their assets as an enterprise fund. So we look at the cash balance normally because their assets, I've got $20 million worth of pipe in the ground. And so it skews it a little bit. So we tend to use the cash balance when we're looking at the swim fund. So I just wanted to remind you guys why we have that.
Well, I guess my question is 6.5% enough? I mean, that's conservative.
Yeah, I think that, you know, you're out there. Our concern was that we didn't want to be underwater, but we, again, you don't know what's going to happen. But I think we felt comfortable with 6.5%. If you were doing it year over year, that you would have that.
Just one more thing to add. This just has a small inflator for growth in it. So it's not taking into account a ton of new construction that's coming down the pipeline. So let's say Lake Point starts to take off and really starts to develop, and then we're going to see those increases generally in there as well. But of course, that also increases things sometimes on the maintenance side, maybe not for a little while since it'll be a new development, but just also letting you know what kind of inflators are in there.
So yeah, I think to go back to your question, we felt comfortable with that 6.5. I mean, again, even 6 was good. We were above. What we liked is the fact you saw that line becoming the purple line or the top line becoming a little bit more parallel or closer to the red line. So it's not like diving off. So slower for that to meet, I guess, was the reason for that.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer?
2 questions. What is the point of the 20% fund balance target if not for emergencies?
That's exactly what it is for emergency.
So we wouldn't just have 200,000 is my,
Good point.
And then secondly, when would this come back to us if we approve a 6-year increase of whatever? When would this come back to us? You know, I'm just thinking potentially requesting to look at it before, maybe the year before, given the slant that you're talking about at the end. So we're not in a position like Gig Harbor or Maple Valley and having to do a 14 or 17%, excuse me, to catch back up.
Ben wants to answer.
I think I understand your question. So part of my take on this is this gets us through the next few years. We are going to be getting another NPDS permit issued to us in 29. And that will also contain some new total maximum daily load TMDL regulations that ecology is working on right now. So there will be more stuff coming down the pipe towards the tail end of this. So this kind of gets us whole to that. We're gonna have to reevaluate once we get those new regulations to see what that is gonna be.
So when would that come to council? 3 years from now? I'm just thinking, I'm not sure that it's safe to see it in 2030, 2031, if it's truly going to intersect the red line.
And we're happy to look at that in like 2028 or whatever, and see where we're at come, say, would that be 3 years from now? So that we're totally fine with doing that. We've kind of gotten this down a little bit, at least having this behind the scenes aspect of that. And Casey can help me again do that. So yeah, we can do that.
So we're not set on 6 years. We can look at it anytime before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Sean?
Thank you, Ben, Don, appreciate this. I had a couple questions, and Casey, I wanted to clarify. You were saying these curves that we're looking at don't include potential revenue from new development like Lake Point? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, we have a small inflator in that I generally keep in there all the time, but I don't have big peaks and valleys in there, so.
There is a possibility that as these new developments come on, there'll be additional swim funds available, but you also said that there's also some new maintenance that will go in there. So
Correct.
these numbers are probably fairly close to what we're looking at, even with Lake Point coming on. Thank you. I guess my question was that it looks like, I appreciate the presentation. A lot of these costs are going up from a whole host of things, I'm wondering, do we foresee a point when this graph, it just continues to go down? I mean, that's just eventually, is there going to be a point? Maybe if we build out entirely, is that when we see these swim funds start to balance out, or how does that work? Because we're just going to have to keep raising. So that's one question. Then I had another question again for Casey, but
Well, I would
that's
say
going to cross eventually.
Yeah, I think that the challenge that we always have is there, just like Ben said, there's a new permit that comes out,
Yeah.
there's new regulations so some of the things that here's some of the things that we've been dealing with, or some of the cities have been talking about with, in regards to the permit, is even some of the projects that we've retrofitted, some of the standards that they're wanting to bring in is like, we've got to go back and do those again. And so hopefully I would like to say, yeah, it would be nice. I just don't know with regulations and stuff if that changes. And then basically there's a new mark that we have to hit again.
And then my other question, and maybe this is a silly question. I'm looking at the 6.5. Are there cost saving benefits to having a higher rate now as opposed to raising it higher later? And I seem to remember in economics, money is worth more now than it is in the future, that you would buy less in the future. So can you speak to that? That I could see where some people say, well, maybe we go with the 5% because it's going to get us to 2031, but we're going to have to raise again at some point, and money might be worth less then. I don't even totally know what my question is, but do we save money? This kind of seems weird, by raising the higher rate now as opposed to doing it later.
I think the present value of money would make sense if we were doing all those projects now.
Okay.
But the fact that we're not, I think it negates that
All right.
economic principle.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Good thought, though.
Beth?
I was just, refresh my memory on how we collect this when we're talking about the average residential rate, 369.66.
So go ahead.
It's collected through the property tax assessments. So,
something like
yeah,
that.
so we
And-
get it as part of the county.
And we're looking at the average home value of 500,000.
850-ish.
Eight
About
fifty,
is our.
850,000, so that would be what that amount is, so, okay.
Well, the single family resident is a flat rate.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
a flat rate.
Yeah.
$369.66 this year.
Annually.
Oh,
Third-
doesn't matter what kind of house you live in, doesn't have anything to do with that. It's for everyone.
Do you have questions?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it sounds like you said something's coming down the pipeline, touche, in 29. So instead of, it just pencils out, instead of seeing an update in 3 years, I would like to see it either in 29 or after the update to see, so we can get a better pulse on what the change is. Speaking to what you just said, I mean, we might have Lake, well, a portion of Lake Point by then. And that influx, or maybe we wouldn't have to raise it as much later because there are more people paying it per se, but I mean, I understand both sides of it. We don't want to drop. But, and we can't count on Lake Point, and there will be expenses. It's not a, it's just a when, right? It's not an if, it's a when. So I wouldn't mind exploring that option too.
Anybody else? Or did you have any?
No.
Okay. So right now we're looking at staff recommendation of 6.5% on an annual residential, but commercial properties also pay 6.5%. Is that correct?
Correct.
So one thing also to take into account on Lake Point, when they're saying Lake Point, is when the commercial development comes in.
Yeah.
That could be going into this as well, but that's probably 4 to 5 years down the road,
Just
depending on how fast they want to bring that development online, which also creates more outfall, right?
yeah.
So
And those are the commercial pieces, the impervious piece, there's differing rates for that, so.
Yeah, the residential, a lot of that'll be in 3 years.
right.
And I will add too, when it comes to the commercial stuff, we've been very successful with our maintenance program and our inspection program. So successful that a lot of people get a discount now. So the rate that they would have been paying, they get a rate reduction. So we do, as we work with these businesses and property owners to maintain their storm systems, then they pay less in storms as a result of that. So, right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So council, before us is the potential to approve a proposed resolution adopting an annual swim rate increase. We need to decide that to begin in 2026 with the final increase going into effect in 2030. Staff recommendation is 6.5%. Does council wish to go with staff recommendation? Thumbs up? Or does council have another percentage that they would like to do? Beth?
I would move that we make it 5%, which would, based on, to the point we would have $238,000 over our minimum threshold. Looks like it's about halfway between to where that black dot, the black or the dark gray line kind of intersects. It would give us an opportunity to evaluate it in 3 years. And I just need to, I feel like we're gonna have a lot of other stuff coming down our pipeline, and we're gonna be having a lot of asks, and I know it's hard to ask for money, right? I mean, nobody wants to have to come to council and say, hey, look. But we also have to figure the impact on our residents with the collective of what we might be going through, and I'm fine waiting, but I would say 5%.
Okay, anybody else? Jennifer?
6% is my vote. That's just below staff recommendation. That puts us in a more comfortable position. Thank you for putting the graph back up because I was struggling over here on my phone. That puts us in a more comfortable position, especially if we wait until 2029 and therefore 2030. I'm not as comfortable with where the black dot is as we get closer to 2031. That's my personal suggestion.
Christina?
I was gonna ask the question, but I'm doing the math now. I was gonna see what the difference is between the 0.5% and it's,
Debbie?
I would like to go with staff recommendation. I'm not comfortable going with us on that.
Joe?
I'm comfortable with 6%.
Anybody else? Christina?
I'm comfortable with 6%.
No, I was at 6.5.
Do I have
The casting vote?
6.5? I have 2, 6%. I have 3, and I have 1, 5%. So, someone say 3%?
No, I thought you said 3
Three
and
voted.
5.
No, I have 2 at 6.5.
Oh, okay.
3 at 6 and 1 at 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now the majority is at 6. Is council comfortable going with 6?
If we
Yes.
reevaluate in 29 and assess and
Can we make that part of the motion to, if we make the motion 6%, that we come back and reevaluate in 2029?
28 or 29? I mean.
We would leave that at,
Okay.
that we would come back within the next 3 years.
Yep.
Okay. Is council good with 6%?
I can live with that.
Okay. I'm gonna restate the 6%.
If we come to 3 years, yeah.
All right,
yeah.
I'm gonna
Saddest.
restate this motion. It's bringing for council approval to approve the proposed resolution adopting an annual swim rate increase of 6% to begin in 2026. With bringing this back within 3 years. With the final increase going into effect in 2031. Does that work, Mark? You need me to restate that, Mark?
Would you just say that one more time? Mayor?
I'm gonna rephrase it from what I just said.
Thank
So
you.
before us is to approve a proposed resolution adopting an annual swim rate increase of 6% to begin in 2026, with a final increase going into effect in 2031, with this being brought back within 3 years to reevaluate.
That's good.
Okay? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Joe, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, we've been doing a great job of doing what we need to make sure that our stormwater is being taken care of. We need to have the funding to make sure that we're able to not only do what we need to do, but to do what others come down the line to tell us to do, irregardless if it's Ben or the state. And I think that we need to make sure that we have the funding for it. And I think 6% is a reasonable request for us. And I think coming back in 3 years, we'll make sure that we are maintaining what we want to do and maintaining what we need to do. So I think doing this reevaluation in 3 years will help us really understand where we're at, what we need to do.
Jennifer, would you like to speak to your second?
Just say thank you for all of this information and answering our questions and filling us in. Our Stormwater 101 session has been great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak for or against the motion? Right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed resolution adopting an annual swim rate increase of 6% to begin in 2026, with the final increase going into effect in 2031, with this being brought back within 3 years for reevaluation. Does that work? All those in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Ben, Don, Casey, thank you very much for this.
Thank you, guys.
That concludes new business. Looking at future agenda items, we do have our budget workshop on Saturday, October 25th. And our next council meeting is on Tuesday, October 28th, with a joint study session with our Parks and Recreation Commission. Does council wish to see anything on a future agenda? All right, let's move into council staff comments. We'll start with Chief.
Thank you. Council, I have no comments.
Thank you. Ethan?
Good evening, council. Nothing from me tonight.
Thank you, Ethan. Don?
I just want to say thank you. I know that was a ton of information and bearing with us through all of that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Selena?
Thank you all for your study session today. I really appreciated that conversation around our critical areas ordinance and looking forward to getting that across the finish line. Other than that, nothing else from me. Thanks.
Thank you. Casey?
Everybody should have got their budget workbooks or electronic copies, and let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I look forward to the budget workshop on the 25th.
Great. Thank you, Casey. Mark?
I have no report, but there is an executive session tonight to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate pursuant to RCW 4230-110 sub 1 sub little b. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Regan?
No, nothing for me. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Regan. Krista?
Good evening, council. Looking ahead at council's schedule, the second Tuesday in November is Veterans Day, November 11th. So in accordance with council rules, if a regular meeting does fall on a legal holiday, then the regular meeting automatically shifts to the following business day. So your first meeting in November will actually be Wednesday, November 12th. So keep that in mind as you're looking at your calendars. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Christine?
Thank you for a wonderful study session. I'm grateful that we changed it from 60 to 90 minutes because truly there wasn't one extra minute. And it's so full and actually quite entertaining to me anyway. Thank you all for a great meeting, and I think that's everything for me today. I'm too cold to talk. I'm just cold. If we could, can we budget request for more heat?
I'm gonna ask for a fan.
Oh, no. Okay. Perhaps it's just me. Thank you.
Beth?
Not a whole lot other than, again, appreciate the session and the presentations. I know it's always hard this time of year as we're all scrambling and trying to figure out how to make it all work and try to minimize the impact to residents and businesses as much as we possibly can without putting staff in a pinch. So y'all are the ones that execute everything, so we don't want to cut you off at the knees, but so appreciate that, and looking forward to the make a difference day this Saturday, rain or shine, and it's probably gonna be raining, but we'll be out there trying to make Covington beautiful for our project. So forward to that, and go Mariners.
Thank you, Beth. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got a couple things. First off, the RFA had its last board meeting on October 1st. A couple things of note. The RFA also passed a fire prevention proclamation similar to what we had passed. There were badge pinnings for new captains. 4 new captains were promoted during that last meeting. We got an update in a number of different departments. What I thought was interesting was the operations. We continue to support wildland firefighting services or operations even this late in October. We've got crews out to several fires in eastern Washington. And as of September, excuse me, got a frog all night. Puget Sound Fires responded to more than 33,000 calls for service. So it's staggering the amount of calls. Kind of like Margaret said, it's more than just responding for to fires. We also passed our a resolution for our 20-year capital facilities equipment plan and equipment plan. If I remember correctly, that will come to us as well, and we'll have to approve that. So we'll see that shortly. And then finally, you all know we have a new chief, and we formally approved his employment. Mark Jones is now the chief of the RFA. He's a local boy, grew up here in Covington, went to Kentwood. So it's kind of nice. We've got some local roots in our new chief. The only other thing, I did the open house at the Toll Brothers development on Saturday. Very nice. They've got a model home they have open. It's interesting. The floor plans, at least for that first development, are to build tall. So there were 3 stories, which for someone like me, that would be difficult, but I know for young families, maybe it's nice. But from up there, you can see all the way down into Lake Point, and it's impressive how just changing that elevation, how much work they've actually done, as opposed to when we usually do it at 256 and you're at the same level. It's gonna be incredible when it's all said and done. So anyway, it was a really interesting tour. It's really nice houses, so.
Did you see the house across the street?
The one, yeah, is that yours?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, I was like,
The
yeah.
one across the street, it will have like a,
Oh, yeah,
it's like right here.
yeah, yeah.
That.
It's already sold, I understand, so. Yeah, there's one that they just sold, so anyway, yeah, there's gonna be some nice views there, so, anyway, they're beautiful houses, so. Great, yeah,
Thank you, Sean.
so that's now for your building.
Debbie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, 1 point.
Well, I have to say, I've never been prouder of our community than Saturday night at the storehouse auction. We raised just under $150,000. First ever fundraiser of any substance. But my best story of the night is we had a live auction item, lunch with the mayor. And it went for $1,500 times 2. But my best story is one of my neighbors is the first guy, the big guy that raised his paddle for 1,500. His name's Rich Mather.
Okay.
So his wife and I were texting the next morning and I said, I'm just blown away by how much, not that I doubted you would earn that much for us.
Talk to the people at the other table and looking at my face, and Michelle thought I was gonna faint.
It was just incredible. I mean, but she said, no, when he walked in and saw that on the live auction item, he said, I am gonna buy that and I don't care how much it costs me. I love that guy. Okay. Yeah, isn't that something? So anyway, it was a great 150 people, all pretty much all from the Covington area, lots of businesses. We had a lot of sponsors. It did us a lot of good to feel that much love from our community and to help us towards our new building. So Purple Light Night, I know we've already talked about that, but I was encouraged to see that the King County proclamation mentioned that it had its roots in Covington. So that was cool. And I appreciated the candidate forum that we had, not only hearing from the two that are opposing one another, but we got to hear from those that, that are here. And also, Regan, thank you and you and the city for putting on that It's Your America workshop. Yes. That was really well done.
Yeah.
I hope we can do that again.
Yeah. It's a
Thanks, Debbie. Jennifer.
Just say, I'll see you all Saturday.
Thanks, Jennifer. Joe.
We had pick last week. There were some amendments put forward for the letter to the state or to the Senate and the House of Representatives for the state on the indigent cases. There was a few that were asked to be put in there that we as a group did not put on. When I get the full language sent back with all the details in there, I will make sure to pass it on. Other than that, Saturday, the storehouse auction was just amazing. I thought it was a great time. We got meeting new people, joking around, having fun. I was also surprised at how much lunch with Jeff went for. I told my wife that and she goes, who spends $1,500 to have lunch with Jeff? I go, I don't know. It wasn't me. So we're fine. Because she would have not been happy with that. But she was also very impressed when I told her all the details. And I think it was great. I can't wait to see all the wonderful things that happen because of that. And I'm looking forward to next year's. I'm also looking forward to the year where we don't have to have that. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Saturday with our cleanup of the Timber Lane and 192nd. And then our budget workshop. Some of those numbers have shocked me, but I'm always shocked every year by what we can do with the amazing staff we have. So I thank you all for all the work you've put into this and all the work you're gonna tell us you're gonna do, and that we get to just say thank you again. That said, Monday, if you guys are free at like 4 o'clock or 3:30 in the afternoon, come to Cedar Heights, playoff soccer, and we are playing Meridian. So come on out and have some fun.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, Saturday night for the Storehouse Gala, Michelle and I were extremely surprised because the most it's ever gone for, I think, was like $200. So when it started going up, the person at the table, I can't remember her name, was watching me. She came up to me afterwards. She thought I was going to pass out because I was not feeling good that night. So, but it was, Tracy had me keep going up and down, but it was fun. It was worth it. Seeing how much a lot of the silent auction items had already been bid above their value before the event even started. So it was and then the trips. So lunch with the mayor was only on there once, but we opened it up for 2. And then there was a trip that you get to choose one of the 3 that went for $5,000. 3,100. I'm thinking of the fun to paddle was 5,000. $3,100, and then so that went twice. So the 2 different people bid on that. So that was it was very nice for that event. The It's Your America, I agree. I hope that we can do that again at some point. My table, I love the game that we had. It's where we come up with a topic where everybody at the table it's like a football field where you strongly agree, you're indifferent, or you disagree, and you're trying to bring everybody at the table across. The topic at our table was about the sheriff becoming elected, and it was spread out, but at the end, it was all here by negotiating to what needs to be done, and I'll share that with you. But yeah, it was, so I had a very good group at everybody that showed up was very good. So every year we, as a council, with the help of staff, choose a citizen of the year and an honorary citizen of the year. Back in 2020, we did not have Covington Days. So we did not dedicate a day for Kelsey Anderson and Jennifer Lindbergh. So with the help of Regan, Krista, Carla, and the team, because we presented that in October of 2020. Thank you for coming up. So we took the original proclamation and added a day. So it was it ended up October 17th of 2020, October 18th of 2020, that Saturday and Sunday. I coordinated with Principal O'Brien at Cedar Valley for the assembly last Friday. Showed up unannounced to the recipients, and they were completely surprised. So we rededicated it, and it went over. It was standing ovation from the kids. So yeah, it was very good. So thank you for that. That is all I had. I will be at Make a Difference Day. I unfortunately will not be able to compete with Regan to see who collects the most bags. I have difficulty walking that far, but I will be there to help check in. That is all I have for tonight. And so this will bring us into our second public comment period. Speakers will state their name, organization, and whether they are a Covington resident. Comments are directed to City Council, not the audience or staff. Comments are to be related to city business. Comments are not intended for conversation or debate and are limited to 4 minutes per speaker. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to address council this evening? Is there anybody online wishing to address council? Please raise your hand. Okay, with that, we will close our second public comment period. We will go into an executive session for about how long, Ethan?
I don't think it'll take too long, 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Okay, so we will go into executive session for 15 minutes till about, let's just say 9:15. to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1, subsection little b. And with that, after that, there will be no further action taken. Thank you. All right, we are back from our executive session at 9:15. There's no further business being taken. Council meeting is adjourned at 9:15.